I had an affair with the fry cook at a burger place and destroyed my marriage in the process. 3 months later, I'm writing this from a women's shelter, and I still can't believe how far I've fallen. Hi, I'm Jessica, 26. I was married to Mike, 29, for 3 years, together for 6. We had a house, 2 cars, and what I thought was a stable life. Past tense on all of that. The fry cook's name was Tyrone. He was probably 22, had face tattoos, and lived with his grandmother. I was getting my usual coffee on the way to my office job, feeling sophisticated in my business clothes, and somehow this kid made me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. It started innocent enough. He'd always smile when I came in, remember my order, ask how my day was going. Mike had stopped doing any of those things years ago. Our marriage had become roommates who split bills and occasionally had mechanical sex on weekends. Mike worked construction and came home exhausted every day. We'd eat dinner in front of the TV, barely talking. He'd fall asleep on the couch by 9. I'd go to bed alone most nights, wondering if this was all there was to life. Tyrone would flirt when I came in for coffee. Tell me I looked nice. Ask about my weekend plans. Small talk that made me feel seen again. I started going to that burger place twice a day instead of once. Then I started going when I wasn't even getting coffee, just to chat. I told myself it was harmless. Just friendly conversation with someone who appreciated me. Mike never noticed when I got home later than usual. He never asked about my day anymore. Tyrone asked for my number after 2 weeks of this. Said he wanted to text me throughout the day, make me smile. I gave it to him, telling myself it was just friendship. That I deserved to feel valued by someone. The texting became constant. Good morning messages. Compliments about how I looked that day. Questions about what I was doing, who I was with. It felt like having a boyfriend again instead of a disinterested husband. Mike started working overtime to save money for a vacation he'd been promising me for 2 years. I should have been grateful. Instead, I felt angry that he was never home, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my phone full of attention from someone else. Tyrone suggested we meet up outside of the restaurant. Just as friends, he said. Coffee somewhere nicer. I knew it was crossing a line, but I went anyway. Told Mike I was having drinks with coworkers. We talked for 3 hours at some dingy cafe across town. He told me about his dreams of opening his own restaurant someday. I told him about feeling trapped in my life, married too young, wondering what else was out there. He listened like every word mattered. When he kissed me in the parking lot, I didn't stop him. I kissed him back like I was drowning and he was air. It felt like being alive again after years of sleepwalking through my own life. We started meeting twice a week. Always at cheap motels where no one would recognize me. I deleted texts immediately after reading them. Bought new underwear. Started wearing makeup to work again. Mike didn't notice any of it. The guilt was destroying me, but so was the excitement. Tyrone made me feel young and beautiful and wanted. He said I was too good for my boring husband, that I deserved someone who worshipped me. That I was wasting my life settling for less than I deserved. I believed him because I wanted to. Because feeling desired was intoxicating after years of feeling invisible. The reality was messier than the fantasy. Tyrone lived in a studio apartment that smelled like weed and had no furniture except a mattress on the floor. He borrowed money from me for gas and cigarettes. He talked constantly about his ex-girlfriend and baby mama drama. But when he touched me, none of that mattered. When he told me I was perfect, I forgot about everything else. The cheap motels, the lies, the way he never had money for anything but expected me to pay for our hotel rooms. After 2 months of this, I started thinking about leaving Mike. Tyrone said we could get a place together once I filed for divorce. That he'd take care of me. That love was all we needed. I was stupid enough to believe him. Mike found out because I got careless. Left my phone unlocked when I went to shower. He saw the messages and confronted me when I got out. The look on his face still haunts me. He didn't yell or throw things. He just asked how long it had been going on and who it was with. When I told him it was someone from the burger place, he actually laughed. Not a happy laugh. A broken one. He packed a bag that night and went to his brother's place. Said he needed time to think. I called Tyrone crying, expecting comfort. Instead, he said this was moving too fast and maybe we should take a break while I figured out my situation. A break. While my marriage imploded, he wanted a break. Mike filed for divorce 2 weeks later. I had to move out of our house because it was in his name. Tyrone stopped answering my calls completely. I found out later he'd gotten back together with his ex-girlfriend, the baby mama he'd been complaining about for months. I couldn't afford my own place on my salary alone. Had been depending on Mike's income for years. My parents wouldn't let me move back home because they were disappointed in what I'd done to my marriage. My sister said I made my bed and had to lie in it. That's how I ended up here. Rock bottom at 26, Sleeping in a women's shelter because I threw away everything stable in my life for someone who never cared about me at all. I'm still at the shelter, still trying to figure out how I got here. The women's shelter is nothing like I imagined before I needed it. Most of the women here are running from abuse or addiction. I'm running from my own stupidity. The counselors are kind, but they've seen this story before. Woman throws away good marriage for someone who promises her the world and delivers nothing. My caseworker helped me apply for low-income housing, but the waiting list is 18 months. I make too much money at my office job to qualify for most assistance, but not enough to afford market rate rent anywhere decent. I'm stuck in this weird middle ground where I'm too poor to live independently but too privileged for most help. Mike and I had to sell the house to split assets. He moved in with his brother temporarily while looking for his own place. I got half the proceeds, which sounds like a lot until you realize how little it is when you're starting completely over. I had to buy everything. Plates, towels, a coffee maker. All the little things you accumulate over years of building a life with someone. Going to Target to buy a single set of sheets made me cry in the home goods aisle. Work has been awkward since everyone found out about my divorce. I never told them the real reason, just said Mike and I grew apart. But office gossip travels fast, and I think people suspect there was more to it. My performance has suffered because I can barely concentrate on anything except how badly I screwed up. I drove past that restaurant once. Tyrone wasn't working. I asked another employee about him and found out he'd gotten fired for showing up high and cursing out a manager. Apparently he'd been a problem employee for months. I'd been risking everything for someone who couldn't even hold down a minimum wage job. The worst part is how little any of it meant to him. I destroyed my marriage, lost my home, and broke my family's trust for someone who forgot about me the moment things got complicated. I was just entertainment. A distraction from his real problems. I started therapy at the shelter. Group sessions with other women who've lost everything for various reasons. Hearing their stories puts mine in perspective, but it doesn't make the shame any easier to carry. Dr. Rodriguez asks hard questions about why I was willing to risk so much for so little. About what I was really looking for in Tyrone that I couldn't find in my marriage or myself. The truth is ugly. I was bored. Felt old and invisible at 26. Wanted to feel special and chosen and exciting again. Tyrone made me feel like the protagonist of my own life instead of a supporting character in someone else's. I never tried to fix things with Mike. Never suggested counseling or talked about feeling disconnected. I just started looking elsewhere for validation and excitement. When I found it in the worst possible place, I convinced myself it meant something profound instead of recognizing it for what it was, a young guy enjoying attention from an older woman with money. Mike texted me once after the divorce was finalized. Said he hoped I was okay and that he was sorry things ended the way they did. He was apologizing to me. After everything I'd done, he was still being kind. I wanted to text back and explain everything. Tell him how sorry I was, how much I regretted throwing away what we had. But what was the point? Some mistakes can't be undone with apologies. My parents finally called last month. Mom cried and said they miss me but couldn't understand how I'd done what I did. Dad was colder. Said I'd always been impulsive but never destructive before. They invited me for Christmas, but the conversation felt forced and sad. The other women at the shelter have become my social circle by default. Maria is here because her husband beat her. Cheryl lost her kids to addiction and is trying to get clean. Kim aged out of foster care and has nowhere else to go. They don't judge me for how I ended up here, but they don't feel sorry for me either. I had a good man and a stable life and threw it away for fun. Most of them would kill for what I had. I found out Mike is dating someone new. A teacher he met through his sister. She looks wholesome and kind in her Facebook photos. The type of woman who probably appreciates stability and kindness instead of taking it for granted. I'm happy for him, which surprises me. He deserves someone who sees his value instead of looking for excitement elsewhere. Someone who won't risk everything they've built together for temporary validation from a stranger. I applied for a second job to save money faster. Retail work in the evenings after my office job. It's exhausting, but it keeps me busy and brings in extra income. My goal is to have enough saved for a security deposit and first month's rent by spring. The shelter has rules about how long you can stay, but they're flexible for women who are working and actively trying to improve their situation. Some women cycle in and out. I'm determined to make this my only stay. I think about Tyrone sometimes, but not with longing anymore. More like confusion about how I convinced myself he was worth losing everything for. He was attractive and charming and made me feel special, but he was also irresponsible, unemployed half the time, and only interested in me when it was convenient. I projected qualities onto him that he never had. Made him into the exciting life I thought I wanted instead of seeing him as he actually was, a kid working fast food who was happy to have an older woman pay for hotel rooms. Dr. Rodriguez says I need to figure out who I am outside of relationships before I can be healthy in one. That I used Mike for security and Tyrone for excitement, but never developed a strong sense of self. She's right. I defined myself through other people's attention and approval. When Mike stopped giving me the validation I craved, I found it elsewhere instead of learning to validate myself. The shelter has job training programs and life skills classes. I'm taking a computer course to improve my office skills and hopefully qualify for better paying work. Small steps toward independence I should have taken years ago. Some nights I lie in my narrow bed surrounded by strangers and think about the house Mike and I shared. Our comfortable routines. The way he'd bring me coffee in bed on Saturday mornings. How safe and loved I felt before I decided it wasn't enough. I had everything I needed and convinced myself I deserved more. Now I have nothing except the knowledge that I'm someone who destroys good things for selfish reasons. The women here talk about rebuilding and second chances. About learning from mistakes and becoming stronger. I want to believe that's possible, but some mistakes feel too big to recover from completely. I'll find housing eventually. Get back on my feet. Maybe even date again someday, though the thought terrifies me. But I'll never get back what I had with Mike. That kind of love and stability doesn't come around twice, especially not for people who prove they can't be trusted with it. This is my life now. Starting over at 26 in a women's shelter because I traded everything real for nothing lasting.